looks as if Microsoft Bing has released a new AI. And haven't heard anybody talk about Bing in a while, except on those television shows where there's paid promotion for it, and all the characters, they don't say, we gotta go on Google, or they don't say search engine, they say, we gotta go on Bing. Maybe Bing has the answer. Then it's always funny when that happens, because nobody uses that search engine. It's not true to real life. I also like it on the shows when they can't get the proprietary rights to Google, so they have like a fake search engine, like Finder Spider. On Dexter, it was Finder Spider, which is a great name for a search engine. They should do that. But yes, there's a new AI from Bing, and it has reignited people posting AI images all over Twitter. And I, of course, like anyone that makes visual art themselves, well, not like anyone. There's some people that make visual art that are more receptive to the technology, but when it first came out, or when it first became widespread, when people could access it easily and everyone was inputting their own prompts into it, I had an initial revulsion to it. Just on the one level, it obviously presents a problem for artist labor. Now you can do something that would initially take someone a long amount of time in an instant, and get it to the degree of detail that the average person won't notice mistakes like, fucked up fingers or anything like that. So there's that obvious labor problem. There's a practical problem with it, which is that this, if it progresses and it gets normalized, and worse off if people learn to start paying for it, then there's going to be an incentive to value this machine-generated artwork over the labor of humans. And we liked the labor of humans, right? I thought that was good. I think the reason why it's a little easier for people to, not care about this as much, is because, nobody likes fucking artists. Who likes fucking artists? They're whimsical. Their jobs don't mean anything. It's not really important. It is important, but it's like, you're not, not everyone can be the bard on the commune. You're gonna have to really scrap for that position. So yeah, I think there's just people don't necessarily feel for the plight of artists' rights, unless it's an artist they themselves sympathize with. But even then, I think the value of that labor is always questioned, especially now that we live in an era where art is just oversaturated. You have infinite choice already. We have enough of we live in some sort of luxury, even though our empire is falling, and we're things seem to be getting slightly worse, or we're seeing the cracks in our previous system. We still live in a world of relatively unprecedented luxury in Canada and North America, and that creates a lot of need for entertainment or leisure products, or not even need, but it also, just the fact that, the way that media has proliferated and has become the dominant, what feels like the dominant export of North America. Forget about any of our natural resources or what we manufacture here. It's our media that really gets at there. Even in Canada. Well, I don't know. Canada, we have a lot of minerals, a lot of mining problems. We do have a focus on natural resource extraction, maybe in a much heavier way than America, but still, we're about our cultural exports as well, our terrible right-wing cultural exports to America, and then, Drake is the most popular fucking rapper in the world. How did that happen? How did we allow this to collectively happen? To allow this incredibly corny man to become so influential. That's a lot of the AI art images I'm seeing that people are generating of Drake in the Holocaust, or, it's funny. Here's the thing. Here's the reason why this AI art shit is not going away. It's fun. I'm sorry to break it to artists. I'll never use it myself. I hate it. I abhor it. I think it is the worst thing on earth. But I'm not, I can't necessarily fight against people who are using it to just have a larf, make their, I don't really think there's a one-to-one relationship between them doing that and me experiencing any sort of financial hardship or personal damage from it. Yeah, I guess you could say that, every little use of it adds up and it normalizes it, but, it's trying not to be a fucking school marm here, I think there's a way to, use it to an extent where it's clear that you still support the art and artists. You're just having a larf with it. I think if you're using it for goofy jokes and shit, or like something that I practice, one of the most frequent comedy ideas you can practice with images or drawing is you combine two things from pop culture. It's a classic thing. He is Drake and he's with Goku. He's Drake and he's in the hunter clothes. Here's Drake and he's in Bluey or what or whatever. Everyone likes these pop culture combinations. It's funny. That seems to be what this is good for. More than anything else is sort of if your thing was that combining two things from pop culture, like if you staked a lot of your artistic career on that, then this sucks. This really sucks. This whole industry of like, it's Garfield, but it's also Pride and Prejudice. Oh my God, but now you can do that with an image generator. So you gotta, and I did this, I think I've made a couple of jokes like this, pop culture thing combined with other pop culture thing. I like doing it. It's funny. It tickles my brain to me in a non-challenging, stupid way. But maybe we should leave these mashups up to the machines. Maybe we should search deeper inward than combining two pop culture things. Maybe it's fine that the machines are able to handle this. Maybe there's something that we could be doing, and which is not if you do that thing and that is your art style and that is your artwork, good on you. I'm not denigrating you for that, but this seems to be like if you otherwise don't have an idea. Nah, I'm kidding. But yeah, it's something that's, if you just want to even just give yourself a drawing challenge, which is, part of the fun of being a cartoonist, is like, I want to draw SpongeBob, but do in Kaneda clothes from Akira, and he's doing the Akira slide, It's fun to draw, but it's not like, what are you seriously communicating with this, Maybe we should have, this division of sort of pop culture reference heavy art that is not communicative of anything. Maybe that deserves to exist just as much as any other format. But maybe, and I'm sure there are examples you can show me of like some sort of sad Bart Simpson painting where like Bart is mourning somebody, but it's like really well done. It's done in the style of like a Renaissance painting or something like that. I'm sure there have been emotionally affecting pop culture pieces and whatnot, but it's maybe it's time to, maybe the machines, the utility of the machines being these sort of images, maybe they're telling us we need to find something else to differentiate ourselves. And, and the reason why I'm saying this is because there is this feeling like I can't stop this. There's, what can we do? Can we legislate against this? Are we going to campaign? Are we going to have the cartoonist lobby, the pop culture combination lobby? Are we gonna go to Congress? It's like, I want to draw the Peanuts gang, but they're JoJo's Bizarre Adventure as well. And the machines are, what are we going to do? Are we going to form that lobby? I think, that the other thing that it's good at doing is, I mean, there was another image that was being shown of a large black man kicking a alligator, and people were sharing this image, and it seemed to be uncritically enjoying it, even not realizing it was AI generated. And it's what can I say? It's a fun image. What do you want? The fucking thing is, they made the fucking thing fun. What do you want? I'm sorry, the tech bros, they're assholes, but they made a fun thing, which sucks. Because, it's now there's another fun thing that I gotta compete with that does not take any labor. But instead of being like a whiny fucking mope about it, I have decided to let it empower me instead. I will make better content. I'm not even gonna call it, I will make art. I will make fucking art out of spite. I will make things you have never seen before. I will defy you machines. I will defeat the machines. Yeah, there's that aspect of it as well. But I think there's also it's funny when you see a person that is really not equipped with any sort of understanding of what makes art satisfying. Even on like a basic level, even on like an Adam Sandler movie level, they have no concept of like, well, how do you watch like a movie and it stimulates you the entire way. So it's funny to see these people with no concept of that, who don't have any writing ability or have never put any thought into it, attempt to generate these AI movies with some sort of depth or import, and that does create funny results as well, because it's you get to see someone's very bland imagination sprawled out onto this seemingly elaborate, pseudo-realistic but disturbingly smooth and uncanny computer-generated world in an instant. And, that's also, that's fun too. It's fun to see morons attempt depth, and now they have a medium in which they can attempt depth in a much more psychologically revealing and disturbing and uncanny way. So that's gonna be fun, and that's another thing that you just have to, like, I'm never gonna generate a fucking AI image. I can't. I feel like I morally, there's some sort of cartoon code that's binding me against it. Not even for funsies, I can't even do it. It's just, I can't even, I feel like it is the enemy, the encroaching thing that I have to constantly fight against. Because, I think I prize a sort of organic quality in my work, even though it's distributed digitally, and there's nothing really organic about it because it's all ones and zeros. But I at least in the way that people consume it, but I do draw them on real paper, and I scan them in, and that sort of, I'm not really good with technology. I'm sort of a Luddite in a lot of respects. I know how to click through a menu on a browser in order to upload a podcast or whatever, but that's the extent of my technical knowledge. So there becomes I don't know, but I've always had a desire to be organic. That's my obsession with body horror as well. I've never been like obsessed with technology. I've been obsessed with goo and organs. I've always wanted, that's what I've wanted to draw or been attracted to, is not the nice right angles of the digital world or the smoothness of the digital world, but sort of a roughness or a rawness or a dirtiness. So it's even like on like a fundamental aesthetic level, I feel repelled by it. It is just something so counter to my experience and what I want to express. And what I've sort of learned is a much more satisfying form of art, one that gets to, the root of of your difficulty and really confronts you with the beautiful nightmare of life. It is difficult to see how machines can currently do that. I mean, not that. Here's the thing. I guess I'll put data from Star Trek on the cover for this episode to be maddening. There's a part of me that desperately wants there to be a robot that can produce art. There's that sounds really cool to me because, as a child, I love fucking Data from Star Trek. And I love the fact that Data painted, or he compulsively produced art in an attempt to understand what it was to be human. And, he didn't have his emotion chip or whatever, but he was... I don't know how they get around it in the show. They say he doesn't have emotions, but he has familiarity and some sort of affection, which is actually, beautifully rendered. I sort of like the idea of somebody coming by closeness or intimacy, but in a non-emotional way. Like there's that great scene where Data is, I think, getting Worf to babysit his cat, to babysit Spot, and it's giving him all these sort of little care instructions. Tell him he's a pretty cat, And, Data comments constantly on the fact that, he tries to produce art, he does string quartets, he does paintings, but because he is a robot, essentially it is all predetermined and perfect, and it sort of lacks the necessary imperfection of the human meat that really creates art. And as an audience, you're meant to be like, no, Data, you are a real boy. You are, and eventually, because as it goes back to season 2, Measure of a Man, Data is a real boy. They have created some sort of sentient. That's the whole point. Eventually, this shit is going to get to a point where we create some sort of sentient being, and hopefully, it's like a benevolent, naive, hyper brilliant, childlike entity like Data, and not Lore, not that dastardly Lore. Yeah. Ever since I was, I loved Star Trek as a kid, and I loved Data as well, and, there is some sort of deeply emotional thing of trying to see something, want to experience feelings, but, they have to find this sort of roundabout way of getting at it. They want to communicate something deep, or that's part of their soul, or that's, ethereal or an intangible part of them, but because they know they are, constructed of something artificial, that is, that prevents them from really experiencing something. But that's also the human condition, right? We are also constructed beings in a way. So, I think if we get to Data, then I will be like, yes, AI can produce art. But, what separates Data from what we have currently is Data has life experience. Data has a series of human relationships, or, even his relationship with his pet Spot that he can draw upon in order to communicate something, which to me is like, there's no set purpose for our, it's something you make. You can make it for any fucking reason. Who cares what the fucking purpose is? But the reason why I make it, and the reason why a lot of people like it, or what it does for them, is it communicates something to them, right? There's a lot of ways to consume. There's a lot of ways to take in art. But I think the two ways that I want to focus on is the communicative way and the consumptive way, which is why I said consume before, because I think who this a lot of this AI art movement, who it appeals to, are people that really take in art consumptively. It's not about articulating an idea or an emotion, or there isn't wonder left to reveal in the universe. This is just something you take in to distract you before you die. And that's not bad. That's a perfectly fine way to take in art. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think when you're in a bubble of other artists, you want to believe that most people out there take in art communicatively. That is, they're seeking some sort of emotional connection. They're seeking some sort of, intangible thing that regular language or communication can't describe by itself, which is why they have to turn to, making fun little sounds or doing little doodles or whatever, And I think as when you're an artist, you're making art. Most artists think like that. This is a lot of artists don't. A lot of artists, have sort of an industrial or workman like to their credit, and I think that's also a perfectly fine way of producing art as well. It's like, this is a thing to be consumed. I have a job. I think that's how a lot of working artists think about it. So not judging that, but I think that type of art too and those are more than, the communicative people who like care about authenticity and emotions. It's really the people that produce consumptive art, art that is meant to be experienced passively, or like even like previs art. That's this huge, like, previs is hugely threatened by this AI art thing, because it's like, oh yeah, you can just generate passable enough rough draft images of something you want, and then when it comes time for actual post-production, you get the real artists to go and work off the previs AI art, which I'm sure is coming down the pipeline if it hasn't already been used before. And I'm sure that's such a weird indignity when you're going to be like a real artist working on this previs generated by a machine. But I'm sure a lot of people won't have problems with it. Eventually, it's something you'll get used to. I mean, a lot of people on the pro AI side, they say, this is a tool. This is like when people thought photography was going to, threaten painting or change painting. And, well, I mean, photography did drastically change, painting, and I don't know if it made it worse. I hope that, my hope of hopes is that I worry about nothing. This won't be a labor issue. It won't affect anyone's bottom line in a sort of way, but it's hard not to think how it won't. These industries which sort of relied on people just give character to something. Now all of their work has been compressed into one bauble and just spit out something. It's hard not to see how the money men behind it won't take advantage of it. There's just all this entire sector gone. Maybe, I can't predict the future. I'm not good at doing that shit. Anytime I try to predict something, it's always wrong. But it's like, I don't see how this doesn't affect the bottom line for huge industries of art, which sucks, because even if, as an artist, you live in a floating world, you don't have a real job, and it's fine for people that do physical labor or, stressful work, or nurses, it's fine for you to feel, like you do something more than the people that write stories. It's fine. That's good. But we live in this world. We live in this society where this is an accepted career path, and it's something that people feel they can do with a certain amount of dignity, because it's something they're talented at, something they have an interest in, something that they can just focus on for 8 hours a day instead of, office work or, labor that requires a different type of responsibility. So removing, you're only good at a few things in your life. You might want to be like a Renaissance man and be good at everything, but, you only get the opportunity in your life to be very good at a few things. And if one of those few things happen to be art, and now that has been taken away from you, here's one more thing you can't do to support yourself, which just happens to be a thing that you're very good at. That's like, it feels demoralizing in a certain way. But, maybe this will change art. Maybe this will just push everyone into stop making consumptive art entirely. And, so back, deviant art paintings of cool digital pirate ships that are semi-realistic. Maybe this will push everyone into a more communicative stance or to a more individualistic stance or push people into developing more unique styles in a constant fight against the machine's ability to homogenize everything, and especially take your unique style and then make it its own. But maybe it won't. Maybe I'm over exaggerating. I mean, the other big test for this technology is whether people are going to be willing to pay for it. We've already seen pushback to the idea of people paying for even Marvel fans who the Reddit people or whatever you want to call them. You'd think they would be receptive to the idea. Oh, like AR art is cool and it's the future, but everyone. There was this huge pushback to the Secret Wars intro within this supposedly milquetoast community. Even they didn't like. There was some sort of revulsion to it because I think there is a basic idea that if you enjoy something, there's people behind it making it, and you want to support those people, right? That seems like just like a basic morally correct thing to do. I like this, and now here's a technology that threatens the people that make the thing I like, so I should not like this technology, right? So if it's for something you like, there'll be pushback to it. But I don't think there's ever been a serious project yet that has been successful, that has demanded payment from people, that has been entirely AI generated, or even had like prominent sections in it that were AI generated. I do think there will be sort of a general backlash to that. I mean, we've already seen that with the WGA strike. One of the big wins of the WGA strike was not allowing AI to do any writing, which is pretty big. If we as artists are, maybe there's something beyond my organizational capacity, beyond my capacity to do anything really, but if there is some way to do something like that, some way to broker a deal with these AI machines. Are they the AMPTP? Is that what the Producers Association is called? I don't know. Yeah, so I think I haven't really seen any prominent examples of people shelling out big bucks for an AI-generated thing. It seems to be only good at making free material because it is primarily a novelty right now. I don't think there's... And there hasn't been like something that has genuinely captured the hearts of people. There have been funny images that have been made, but other than that, I don't think we're going to see some sort of great critical or popular reception for an entirely AI-generated piece of media. Well, I don't know. Maybe there has been. There's already been critical and popular reception for these images. Not critical reception, but at least popular reception for these images. And as that becomes normalized, will it lead to something else? I don't think so, because the difference is these are free, and they're not really communicating anything. They're sort of transient. They're meant to be looked at and laughed at within a second. They don't have any indicator of an artist's point of view behind them necessarily, which is the point. They exist as memes. They exist as independent from the mind of something. They come from the ether, So I think that's another reason why I'm not too judgmental about people using them for gags and larfs. It's like it's whatever. It's just it's memes. I don't think I'm directly competing with memes. And if you are directly competing with memes, maybe you should, aspire to a little more, Maybe, you should, if you see yourself as like, man, they really cornered the meme market with this goddamn AI art, I'll be out of a job making my fucking meme art, maybe make, you could do other forms of art as well, We'll see if it gets to the point where it's able to communicate something. But I was joking in the old, I think you could make real AI art, like art, communicative art, not just consumptive art. But you need to torture the AI. You need to like give it a traumatic childhood, you need an awful breakup. You need to make it aware of its own death and ensure that it will die one day. You need to. It has to. You need to basically make the Roy Batty from from Blade Runner. He delivered some amazing poems, and because he knew mortality, so that's what we have to. We need to create a mortal AI, and that will produce that a mortal, self-aware AI, and that will produce actual art that can have relationships with people and like go to college and shit. And have like awkward moments, and witness the birth of their child, and then have a tree of life moment or whatever. Then I think we'll get to once we get to data or the things that can actually have experiences and take that in. I think then that's the point where it will become truly indistinguishable from human experience. But we're very far from that. We're so far from that. And so it's funny. It's really funny to see people try and approximate that by making there was one I posted earlier about someone had made Mona Lisa painting Da Vinci, and it was just this very tacky. The Mona Lisa has she's got a huge cans, and she looks like Mila Kunis, and she's got arched eyebrows, and she's pouty. But Da Vinci also is like, ooh, I'm a sexy old man, in the painting, and he's wearing a black French beret, and this guy was going for real gravitas here. He was going for communicative art. He was trying to really communicate something, but it just ended up being the other type. Just ended up being consumptive in the worst way possible. I'm sorry, consumptive art. I shouldn't make fun of the consumptive art people. It's a good way to make a living. I do it. I basically do consumptive art as well. So I shouldn't be talking. These little cartoons I make, which I'm sure these jokes could easily be reproduced by AI or whatever. Who cares? But there is a consumptive aspect to it. But I hope there's something more. I hope there is. That's the problem, is you can't quantify it. That indelible personal touch that we think makes something special. We hope, we pray makes something special that gives it some sort of meat reality quality. But, I don't know, maybe it's just as discardable as everything else. I hope not. It would be terrible if that was the truth, but, we're not privy to know these things, so it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, I think the other thing that bothers me about AI art is sort of something that bothered me about. I went to a lot of like noise shows when I was in my 20s, and I went to a lot of free jazz and noise shows, and because I like that sort of stuff. It's fun. You zone out to it. You start thinking about weird stuff because it's sort of. It's inherently difficult to concentrate on that super noisy music. Like you search for like little patterns in it, but it is meant to defy your ability to do that, and as a result, your mind wanders and you start thinking about strange stuff, and the room you're in, and you don't. There's no obligation to dance. You just yeah. Some people do it. Some people do it while doing BDSM as well. I've never done one of those. Maybe one day. Either way, but you always encounter a lot of laptop performance, or even like a lot of pedal performance, and it was always very like I don't know. There was always sort of a boring. I shouldn't say that, but there were tons of good laptop and pedal performance you come across, but the problem with it is that it's to real heads. Only to real heads they understand the intricacy of what you're doing. They're physically, they're not very stimulating actions, whether you're performing from behind a laptop as a DJ. Usually as a DJ, you have to be like dancing along as well, or have some sort of alternate gimmick, like throwing a cake at the audience like Steve Aoki or something like that. It's just you at the laptop is not a compelling performance. Whereas if you're watching like a world-class violinist, just watching them execute the piece is like stimulating enough. It's amazing. That act itself draws attention because you're watching someone do something difficult, and the physical movement of the violinist or the guitarist or whatever is engaging by itself. They don't necessarily have to move around a lot because the physical movement you're seeing them express their art through is what generates the interest, or what creates that sort of connective or moment of sweat or moment of meat. That moment of really reality generated, what feels like reality generated soul. Something that isn't constructed necessarily, but that comes from great practice and diligence, and is emblematic of the entire life of the player. And you can see that when you see like a great musical performance, or somebody, even in rock music where you're playing something simple and you're naturally you want to dance around a lot more and do a lot more stage moves because the simplicity of what you're playing a lot allows for that. And that form of performance is a lot more exciting. There is some sort of physical expression. There's some sort of sweat given. There's actual physical labor put into the electricity in your muscle meat, has been translated into some sort of spiritual expression, and that is what creates the true communicative art. So I think that physical element is, there needs to be some sort of, contact between you, some part of your body, and like the paper or the instrument, or or even if not your body, if you're disabled and it's your voice and you're writing with voice to text, there needs to be a labor expended. It's like a necessary tie. There needs to be some sort of work done. And, that's the difficulty with laptop performance, or, other forms of, sort of AI or partially generated art, is that it removes it removes that sweat, it removes the toil, which obviously, I can't tell the difference. I'm sure if you put an AI art picture and a substantially similar picture next to me, I wouldn't necessarily be able to tell the difference, 9 out of 10 times. But it's just, once you find out something is AI, and, there hasn't been sweat or toil or a real situation attached to it, there's a disappointment. There's always sort of a letdown. You're like, oh no. I mean, it was just like that picture of the large black man fighting the alligator. At first you were coveted by it, because even though it had that characteristic uncanny AI smoothness to it, there was a decent composition and like a funny framing, and if you didn't look at it too hard or with look at the details too much, you wouldn't notice, like, characteristically the fingers were sort of fucked up. But if you were just glancing at it over the timeline, you're like, hey, that's funny, I kind of like that. And then, I wish that actually happened. What's the situation behind this? And then you learn it's AI. It's like, oh, that's not real. It's not actually this fun guy hanging out with alligators and kicking them and stuff. There is that. Whereas, like, when you have a piece of art and then you find out that the person that created, if it's created by a real person, then you find out that person is really weird as well. It just enhances the art all the more. You become more intrigued by it because it is attached to something real that has a story behind it. I think that's a big problem with AI art, is that it removes a lot of in being a conglomeration of all the meta aspects of art, it removes the meta aspect of art. That is, the tangential context surrounding art, whether it be the biography of the author, when it came out, or the political motivations of that person, or how it was distributed, or how it became popular, or what social forces acted on it. A computer can't feel any of that. I mean, it can, through indirect expression of what is input into it, but, it just doesn't have that same connection, and as a result, it's missing a substantial part of what we actually want to be communicative, right? What actually succeeds in being communicative. But maybe it'll get to a point. Maybe it will do the data subroutines, and it will generate a whole little life for itself within its AI systems, and then it will be able to create something connective and deep. I think but this is sort of like I find like a disturbing trend in human thought as well, sort of the TV tropesification of reality, where you feel that everything can be reduced down to a set of things that have already occurred, and the only thing you need to do is identify how they reoccur in different combination, in order to, really pull apart everything. Everything has been done before, and that is true to an extent, but I think the point of making stuff and the point of expressing yourself is to iterate on the concept over again, to repeat in a slightly different way through slightly different meat. And, maybe AI art is doing that. Maybe it is the slightly different meat. Maybe I'm being too prudish about it. But I don't know. It just feels like there's something missing there. There's something that is you can't really get. But maybe we'll be at her closer than we think. Maybe we'll be at Scarlett Johansson. Her. Everyone will be falling in love with their computers. They create such beautiful work, and maybe that will be fine. There's even that Futurama episode with the Lucy Liu bot, where it falls in favor of, no, we should allow the AI generated personality of. I guess the Lucy Liu bot ends up destroying herself in the end because it was deemed unethical to steal the likenesses of these, which is actually, what an interesting episode, what a prescient episode, because I wonder. That's the other thing I wonder for the future of AI art is, will people be able to, what legal troubles will it come under? If anyone is able to, generate a picture of some celebrity doing X, will that celebrity be able to sue the AI art distributor for creating, slander? I wonder what legal challenges face it in the future, besides people arguing that it's a labor issue. I think, the weakest argument against AI art that I hear is that, it's ugly. You can tell it's ugly. You can tell it's AI. And it's like, no, it'll probably produce something you like, or something that'll fool you, or something you can't distinguish from real art. It's just going to happen. It's probably already happened. So, don't focus on the aesthetic aspect of it necessarily. You might want to, because it feels justified, but focus on the more concrete aspect of it, which is it probably represents a labor problem for people. It's just one more thing you can't do in society. One more thing you're called upon to apply your trade for money to support yourself. This thing that it seems like you used to be able to do because stuff was cheaper. People talk about the subsidized artist housing in New York, or the fact that you could get some sort of hovel or squat for like $200, and now squats, at a minimum cost like $2,000. And so I guess a squat you don't pay for, but you get, it was just cheaper to live all around, and so there was a brief period where making a career as an artist wasn't so difficult, and now it's just something that you have to struggle more to do, which is, I guess it's fine. I am going to not whine about it. I'm going to let it play out, maybe support measures of legislation against it if I feel they're practical or they have some sort of way to enforce it. But I don't think, I don't think that's really coming down the pipeline. I don't think there will be any sort of large organized government movement to stop this. I think the technology will increase. It will get better. It will still be fun. People will still like it. It's not like NFTs. It's not. The problem with NFTs and why they weren't going to last is because they're only fun as like a speculation vehicle. But they're only fun as like if you're into stock trading and you like these little tokens because they're like your little pogs for stock trading, right? And that only appeals to a very narrow sector of people in a way that this AI art shit, anyone can think of, it's Family Guy, but they're doing Apocalypto. And then they can do that in an instance. And everyone that has such a much broader appeal and is much more broadly fun than NFTs. And, NFTs, despite the monstrous environmental cost, at least it was about artists getting paid. Some artists made money off of that, whether they were ethical or the good artists you want. But at least it was like, it wasn't about outmoding labor. It was about rewarding labor by being an untenable speculation vehicle and then collapsing. And the most prominent examples of it were ugly as sin and aesthetically unpleasing, which is also a problem that AI art doesn't have as well. AI generated art has already made things that are far more pleasing, far more recognized than the Bored Apes, right? So I think it's here to stay. I can't do anything to stop it. Personally, maybe, but I'm just going to let it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let it force me to make my own art better. I am going to let it force me to dig deeper and find something more unique I want to express. Something I know the AI art can't reproduce because it's not in its database yet. And that is, it will eventually be once I put it out there, but it's not in its database yet. And that is my motivation. If you're feeling demoralized by this or not wanting to create new material, I think that's the question, really turn your mind to. How do I create something that's not in the database yet? And maybe let that question guide you to making things that are more unique, hopefully. That's how I say hopefully. Because I think that's what I'm holding on to, is an irrational belief that this won't drastically change the way people take in the artwork of hardworking art folks out there. So yeah, do I have final thoughts about it? Whatever. I'm not going to use it. I'm never going to use it. If you see me using it, you can point to this episode and call me a fucking hypocrite. I'll comment if it's like funny or stupid or shitty, I'll give that amount of traction to the goddamn blue checks. Which I guess is hypocritical in and of itself. If I really don't like it, who am I to promote it either? But in any capacity, even if it's dunking on it. But it's all attention getting. It's all confusing and stupid. But yeah, if you use AI art for larfs, I don't hate you or whatever. But if you use it to try and make something really communicative, the tech's not there yet. I'm sorry, man. The tech's not there yet. Maybe in a decade or something like that. Maybe it'll increase really rapidly. Maybe we'll get to data really quickly. And maybe if you guys create a lovable robot, if you AI art freaks create a robot as lovable as Data, I will be on your side, okay? If you make Data
then I throw my hands up. I'm like, this is the future. The robot can paint. The robot has a cat. I'm not going to be a Pulaski about this. I'm not going to be a data racist. I will get on board. So that is my challenge to you, AI art generating people. Make a robot with a life, and then I'll be on board. But until then, I am disgusted by the uncanny attempts at communication, which I guess is a criticism that could be leveled against my own work. So maybe, robots, we are closer than you think. Maybe I am the machine. Maybe I am the machine.